I'm trying to impress God. So for me, I'm not trying to create an experience that somebody gonna walk out of my class and was like, oh, that was a dope lecture.
Right.
I'm planting seeds.
Right.
So students might get it that day, or they might get it 5 years from now. I remember I had a student come to me, it might have been 5 or 6 years after, and he said, I wanted to come back to you and talk to you because when I was in your class, I was like, what this dude talking about? And he said, I went to a political science class one day, and everything the teacher was saying was mirroring exactly what you had said. And at that moment, it started clicking for me. Now, I can appreciate that feedback, but once again, I'm not doing it to create like this response from somebody where they're giving me words of affirmation. I don't seek to be affirmed from people. You know what I'm saying? Most Def got this one bar where he says, I forget what track it was. He said, I'm trying to live right in the eyes of God. And so I think as an artist, sometimes it's easy as an artist, especially in this day and age of likes, where we want our art to be liked. But some of the greatest artists, read about them. Some of them were depressed.
Yeah.
Some of them were frustrated. And some of it was because they wasn't getting what they wanted from the outside world.
Yeah. I struggled with that for a really long time.
But you can't though, because here's my thing. I seen a t-shirt that said, I'm not for everybody. I was like, I need that t-shirt. And I think everybody needs that t-shirt, or at least needs that mentality. There's gonna be some people that's gonna love you. They're gonna love your curriculum. They're gonna love your art. They're gonna love your photography. They're gonna love your videography. Whatever you do, they're going to love. And then there's gonna be some people, for whatever reason, and they get that right to be like, not so much for me.
Yeah.
And either way, neither one really should consume you. You shouldn't be consumed with the validation, nor be consumed with, someone not being fond of what you do. Cat Williams said you need haters. I don't believe that. No one needs haters. My motivation is God. Right? And for somebody that might be like, oh, he all Jesus out or da da da. And be honest, as a Muslim, I'm trying to live right in the eyes of Allah. And so, I just think it's easy to get caught up in the validation. It could be dangerous either way. Let's say you got 300,000 followers. That could be dangerous, man.
Yeah.
Getting all those likes, because the question becomes, to your point as an artist, are you being true to yourself? Or are you trying to curate this persona, these images, these videos for those likes?
I feel like my peers and we kind of struggle, right, with Instagram and all these different platforms. I have a lot of friends that do prints of their work, which yesterday, Sauce and the homegirl Steph, they came to my house and they went through I have like a professional photo printer and a print, and they were looking at my work. They were like, why aren't you printing this stuff? I was like, oh, why aren't you printing your new work? I said, I just didn't want to buy new ink. I digress. A lot of my peers did struggle for a period of time though with the way Instagram made us have to showcase our work. And to the point where it's like, do I want to do it for likes, or am I just doing it for what I'm doing it for? Like, and I'm not somebody that didn't struggle with it. I don't know if I needed the likes, but I did want the exposure, because I wanted the exposure to open a door for me that I felt like I couldn't get doing stuff on my own. And I think at one point people made it feel like if you weren't on social media, it wasn't working. But you were the person that told me, yo, I met these photographers at these conferences that don't have any social media at all, and they have big contracts because they are putting the art before putting or running in the chitlin circuit, trying to figure out how to be seen by everybody else. It's hard though. It's not an easy thing. And I think like my generation, we struggle with that piece. Not everybody in my generation, but a vast majority of my generation kind of struggle with trying to not seek that validation from a like, or not seek that validation for more followers, because sometimes those things can equate to bigger opportunities. But sometimes, like you said, you have 560,000 followers or something like that, which is nothing wrong with that. That's tight. It's awesome. But I know sometimes I think the mind is so fickle, and people don't want to change even when they want to change because they think other people are watching them. And I think you gave me an example. Remember one time when I was trying to be a vegetarian? And I called you, yeah, you know, I'm a vegetarian right now, man. I'm eating a little burrito, ooh, off the bam. And you was like, why are you calling yourself a vegetarian? I said, well, because, you know, I'm not eating any meat. Well, if you're not eating any meat right now, you don't have to not be a vegetarian. You don't have to be a vegetarian to do that. He said, if you want to not eat meat, cool, do that. But don't hold such a hard title or a firm stance on something like that, because you might want to change your mind one day. And you think other people are watching you, so you don't change.
Yeah, man. I mean, first of all, I got a lot of compassion for the generation of social media. You all deal with an institution that, you know, folks from my generation didn't have to deal with. So when you say it's hard, you know, I don't have that experience because I grew up in a day and age where to showcase your skill set or to work or to make, you know, partnerships or to collab didn't come through a DM. It didn't come by what you posted. It came through relationships and networking and connecting with folks. Sometimes like-minded, sometimes not. And I think it's really easy to be influenced by that platform. I think the platform can be used for a lot of positive. But I do believe there's a sector of the world that's not even on social media. And I think when you're on social media and or of this generation of social media, I think it's easy to believe that everyone that's important or that everyone that does what you do or that values what you do is online. And I just think about the folks that's like my mother's age. My mother's not checking for social media like that. If my mother wanted to hire a caterer, a photographer,
She would just call through a Rolodex, kind of.
she wouldn't reach out for social media. And she is not the minority. There's actually a large population of folk that are well-to-do in terms of finances and resources that they would never hire, you know, a photographer from Instagram, right? And so I think that's one aspect, right? But I also think it's important to just diversify your world. Like social media is helpful, but when I say diversify your world, it's kind of like your friends. All my friends aren't educators.
Right.
What you think about that? If I isolate myself around educators, how do I expand myself? There was a time period, and I shared this with you, where I was intentionally about connecting with folks outside of education. I wanted to connect with accountants, attorneys, architects, engineers, scientists, chefs. I wanted to connect with people that were from a different field of study and see how their mind thought about something like happiness, social change, joy, revolution, right? How were they giving back to the world? Those folks, to me, could expand how I think about the world, could grow me, because they're not reading from the same books I'm reading from, right? When you're an educator, man, everybody reads some of the same text, you know, and so that same text influences how you think about the world and influences, you know, the things you value. And so everybody reading from the same books, valuing the same things, we walk around, you know, kind of giving each other, you know, dap and pound, and it feels like, you know, kind of like a good old boy club or something. It's kind of weird.
I think that's why this project is so important. Also, because I'm doing this thing, I don't know what it is just yet. I don't know what it's going to turn into, but you might be like a reoccurring one every season. Ain't gonna lie, because this conversation is, me and you talk every single day, probably 3 times a day. You know what I mean? I just call you, and we talk about various things, but I think this is a gift I want to give to people, because I want people to know how important you are to me, but also this is the conversations I'm constantly having. Not just this, we talk about a little bit of everything, and I wanted to give this a gift. I mean, like I said, bro, you're the most important, you probably most important person in my life. You know what I mean? Like before I make vast decisions or anything in regards to my growth and stuff like that. When I was younger, you used to kind of like, I had a hard time making decisions for myself, so you would kind of help me get there. Now when I make these decisions by myself, I feel really proud to be like, hey bro, I made a decision, and you be like, and celebrate me with it. You know what I mean? But that came from you just being a brother to me and being like, yo, this is what it is. I mean, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, and like I ain't about to start crying because that's not what I'm at right now. But it's but you are. I remember we was driving on Cutting and stuff like that, and I was struggling with college, and I remember I was like, I want to be an artist, but I want to go to college, and I want to do this, I want to do that, and stuff like that. And I remember you, the reason why I don't know if I told you, you were the reason why I did art the way I did art from that point. I remember we were talking, I was like, yeah, I want to make a movie. I want to film movies and stuff like that. You were like, well, the cool thing about you being a filmmaker is you don't have to necessarily do the same college route. Like you can, but your movie is your book. So every movie, every product you put out is a version of your work.
Yeah.
And that changed the way I perceive things. And it's the reason why I locked in as hard as I did. And you've been with me through the ebbs and flows and stuff like that. Shit, the camera we shooting on right now, that's a you thing. I don't know if this is to say thank you or I love you. I just know that I am blessed to have you in my life in this way.
It's all love, man. Like I think it's reciprocal, man. I got a great deal of love and respect for you too. It's not one way. I don't even have one-way relationships.
Yeah.
Right. I think every relationship has to have a level of reciprocity.
Yeah.
So I give thanks for you for being who you are, a very genuine, authentic, cheerful person that has so much to offer the world. And that's all I've been trying to do is just be in your life to help you recognize, how much you bring to this world. Everybody has something to offer. It's kind of like you go to a party. You don't come to a party empty-handed. Everybody that comes into this world has something to offer. Now, whether they know what that offering is another question. Part of our journey is understanding what that offering is. My offering is education. But my offering is healing. That's why I do what I do. Like I run for healing.
Yeah.
Right. That's my healing. It's my mental health. For years, I went to therapy. I had a therapist. Shout out to my therapist from Guatemala. Amazing woman. And I got to a point where, I no longer necessarily needed to be in the space processing outwardly what I was thinking. I think it's always beneficial, but I think I get that same thing from running now, where I get to be in a meditative space. I get to be in a quiet space. I get to be, basically the world stops. When you're running, the world stops. All the noise stops, and you get to be by yourself. And that's like one of the fears people have. People don't know. You could put on a podcast, you could put on a playlist, you could put on an audio book, but at some point during that run, while that is on, that all of that noise will fade. And you're gonna be there with yourself. And for me, it becomes a space where I get to ask myself some really important questions. I get to confront my fears, my challenges, and I get to be honest with myself in those moments. And so it's a physical thing where I get to challenge my body in various ways, but it's also a spiritual thing where I get to feed that energy in my body from being in the sun, being in nature, connecting with other people, seeing people. When you're running and somebody's smiling, people don't know that's food. You know what I'm saying?